Okay, everyone, this is Mr. Winters, and this is U.S. History 435. And today we're going to introduce our primary source analysis essay project to you and let you get a start on this. And the goal at the end of the day today is to try and find a topic that you want to research or a primary source that you want to research, and we'll kind of advance from there throughout the next few weeks with this project. So, introduction and primary sources, as you guys already know, are sources created in the period being researched and by the people being researched. Contrast this with secondary sources, which are after the fact, scholarly analysis of the subject, such as your textbook. For this assignment, you'll bring to class a copy of a primary source that you're considering using for research, or an excerpt of a primary source. Some of those are pretty lengthy, so you're not going to obviously focus on the entire document. Along with a copy of your source, you will submit an 800-word minimum analysis of that source. All writing must be in 12-point font, 1-inch margins, and they must follow MLA format. The purpose of our assignment is to work on how to analyze a primary source. Your goal is to analyze your source excerpt as deeply and as thoroughly as possible. We are not simply going to provide a general summary or an overview of the source. Think concretely and critically about its content, its historical context, cultural values that shape it, and its relevance to your research. What are the author's tone, style, and argument? What are its strengths and weaknesses? And then read between the lines and discover its biases and assumptions. Depending on the nature of the primary source you select, your source may be as short as a paragraph or two, or dozens of pages in length. Our objectives: to interpret and analyze a primary source, to evaluate the historical significance of that source, evaluate the factors that led to the creation of the primary source, and then analyze the effects the primary source has had on U.S. history and potential effects worldwide, depending on the source once again. How it's relative to our Common Core, analyze in detail how a complex primary source is structured, including how key sentences, paragraphs, and larger portions of the text contribute to the whole. Integrate information from diverse sources, such as both primary and secondary, into coherent understanding of an idea or event, noting discrepancies among those sources. We have some bias in some of these sources that you guys are going to research. Materials you'll need: we're going to have the computer lab reserved for 2 class periods. That'll be down the road a little bit. We'll give you dates on that. A couple handouts outlining the assignments. You may print those off here from the site. Also have extra copies available in class. What is a primary source is one of those. And then there's a worksheet with questions to be answered regarding the primary source, which we'll go through those questions today. And then a rubric, just basically how this will be graded, so you know what's expected exactly. And then we'll be using a projector in class to go over a couple speeches and just kind of walk you through some things here when you guys get to class. Again, we are reviewing primary sources. This is not an introduction. Kind of already talked about. Again, you guys have done primary source projects since freshman year. So you guys have a pretty good understanding of the difference between a primary source and a secondary source. We're going to preview some websites when you guys come to class tomorrow. I've also linked up those websites here for you to take a look at tonight to get a head start. Some really good websites that you can use here. AmericanRhetoric.com. What I love about AmericanRhetoric.com is you guys can access that. Take a look at, they've ranked the top 100 speeches of all time. Obviously, you can debate that, but it's kind of interesting to see what they rank in the top 5, top 10. You can also listen to audio, watch video of some, or print a transcript of all of those right there on that website. So it's a great resource. That's my favorite of the 3 here, but obviously it's only focused on speeches. So if you're going to look for a document, the other 2 websites are very relevant as well. GreatAmericanDocuments.com. TeachingAmericanHistory.org, 50 Docs. Also, that one rates documents 1 through 50 in terms of their historical significance. Obviously, very debatable. Make an argument for or against where they rank it at as part of your essay if you choose to do so. But you'll see things in the Declaration of Independence, to more specific documents on tariffs and things throughout history, just more focused. So a lot of great things to choose from there. Tons of opportunities to pick what you want to learn more about, and you got a pretty good introduction to that throughout the year. So in class, we're going to watch a little bit of President Kennedy's inauguration speech and Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech. Not the whole things, but just parts of them. You can access those on theamericanrhetoric.com. Both of them actually have video on that site. And then we'll also analyze the Plessy versus Ferguson Supreme Court decision, which we've covered recently, and give you a chance to kind of go through a written document in case that's what you want to work on. So we'll give you some good examples coming up here. In structuring your essay, you must address the questions on the following slides. Do not simply list answers to the question below in your essay. Rather, you must write your paper in essay form. It should have an introduction, several body paragraphs, and a conclusion. Do not need to address the questions in order, but be sure that you address all questions that are relevant to your source. Now, that does mean some of them may not be relevant to your source, and I understand that. What I'm trying to do is provide a framework for you guys to collect as much information as possible, and just try to lay it out and make it a little bit easier on you guys. Your essay must be a polished piece of writing completed using MLA formatting. It will be graded for both content and style. So some questions we need to answer here. What type of source is it? Is it a newspaper article, a map, a letter, a film, etc.? When was it created? Where was it created? And then who created it? And then what was the author's intent? What is their place in society? Who are they? Why are they important? Why should we care? And that includes class, gender, ethnicity, profession, all that stuff. How might the factors listed in the question above shape the author's perspective in this source? Well, status in society. Are they a lower class person? Are they an upper class person? Obviously, the way they live their life is going to shape and alter their view. How do you think the author created this source? Why do you think the author created this source? And does the author have an argument? If so, what is it? Who is the intended audience for this source? One of the things we talked about at the beginning of the school year with the Declaration of Independence, the audience was really the entire world, and kind of the world was the judge and jury, if you would. And that was our plea to them that we deserved our independence, that we were actually right and the British were wrong. But the intended audience is really important. Whose attention are they trying to get? And then how might the intended audience shape the perspective of this source? Historical content, under what specific historical circumstances was this source created? Obviously, what are the conditions surrounding it? What larger historical events, processes, or structures might have influenced this text? Is it in response to an event or something going on at the time? Is the source consistent with what you know about the historical record from that time? Content of the source. What historical facts do you learn from this source? What biases or other cultural factors might have shaped the message of this source? How do the ideas and values in the source differ from the ideas and values of our time today? What historical perspectives are left out of this source? Some may be conveniently left out because they're trying to make an argument. Obviously, factor that in. What questions are left unanswered? And then the relevance of the source. What research questions are you using this source to answer? How might this source confirm or contradict issues raised in other primary sources? How might this source confirm or contradict issues raised in secondary sources? Does this source represent any patterns with other primary sources? For those of you that have an IEP, we will be meeting with our alternative learning teachers, and actually we already have met with them, and we'll set up whether or not there needs to be any adjustments to the assignment for you. They are very aware of this. They have a copy of it, so when you go to your resource class, they are ready to help you. So that is basically the introduction. Again, take a look at the websites. Try to get an idea of what you want to do before you come to class, and we will preview some of those speeches and documents and answer any questions that you may have coming forward as well. Also created a discussion board strictly for the primary source analysis essay, so you can find that under discussion. And feel free to ask any questions there. We'll just keep those questions up. I will answer those questions as soon as I can, and you guys can access those and kind of look back. So maybe if you have the same question, you might look at that first and see maybe where I've already answered that question. If it doesn't make sense to you, ask again. I'll try to explain a little better. If you just have a different question, post it there. And obviously you can ask me in class as well, but that's a way to access it outside of class. So your next step is to do a little research. Maybe you have an idea of what you want to do already. You do need to get it approved by me. So as soon as you know, see me, post it on the discussion board, and I will either approve your choice or kind of steer you to maybe something I think could be a little better for you. All right. Thanks, everybody.